I know I'm late, but I guess I can render my opinion, my thoughts on why, at least in theory, I respect ADOS, American descendant of slaves. Or as Ann Coulter said, she would prefer to be descendants of American slavery. Now I know I'm late, and there's a lot of different detractors. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people who've already believed that the movement has already been sabotaged, partly by one of the leaders, or both of them. And I got commentary on that too coming. But for the sake of time, I'll render what it means to me and why I support ADOS. Let's talk about that real quick. So I'm watching all kinds of panels of people, non-ADOSers, and all over the place. And I see people going in, and I remember months ago when I wanted to do this video, you had China Fox and her feelings, and you know her and Yvette got beef. You know, bright skin on bright skin crime. She was crying about one of her friends who gave a critique of ADOS, but his family papers is not in order, and he decided to talk about what black Americans should be doing and whatnot, and his family's not. And to me, it just seemed like before you talk some ish, you should make sure your family paperwork is straight. But apparently somebody threatened to expose them and call ICE on his family, which it is what it is. But there's been so many detractors in the media. You've had Talib Kweli. You've had your girl, what's her name? The chick that was fired from ESPN because she broke the policy. Jamel Hill, even throwing her, little 2 cents. I haven't seen videos addressing what she did because she was on that same Twitter feed of Talib Kweli, and she said something that I'm gonna get back to later on. But then you got the Joya and Reeds and the Roland Martins. You got the brother that's always on Roland Martin from African Studies. He's already equated ADOS to Trump, right? This is a black intellectual Afrikaan speaker, got more degrees than a thermometer, but he's saying that because you won't just vote for the Democrats and you have a claim and you're using your political leverage to get what you want, that somehow that means you support Trump off the bat, which is just intellectually dishonest. But you got a lot of detractors. And I'll be honest, given my, before I get into the bag and what it means to me, no, I do not subscribe to Yvette Cornell or Tone Talk's political worldview that leftist, far leftist, black folks can't do shit without government. I don't co-sign any of that. As you've listened to my channel, that's pretty clear. So for me, ADOS is something different to me. Now, it's about identity, right? But yes, there are problems with Yvette and Tone. Yes, I think that in this space where Yvette is getting hit from academia, black academia, she's getting hit from celebrity, she's getting hit from all angles. For her to pick with, her beef with Boyce, for her to attack Dr. Claude Anderson, for her to go at Farrakhan, all those things are divisive in a moment when you have everybody on a national stage coming at your movement. It doesn't make sense to be in the middle of a battle and to start other ones. I think she's too immature for that space. I do. And it could be she might be the downfall for that situation. But yeah, I don't support their political worldview. I don't lean left in my worldview in politics, but I do believe that reparations is the case. Unlike many black conservatives or black Republicans, they unfortunately are using their platforms to talk against it, which I think is dumb, and that needs to be addressed too. We know y'all trying to kowtow for y'all white conservative friends. We don't need you. Let the Democrats is already pooping on reparations. You ain't got to jump in and chime in. Just be quiet. I wish I would. That's a different conversation. But that's my disclaimer. I don't subscribe to their political worldviews. I still respect the ADOS movement and I'm gonna break down what it means to me, right? But just watching all these different panels, watching all these debates, I'm just confused and perplexed at why are we even giving conversations to non-ADOSers in the first place? or even the Africans. A lot of a lot of these folks we see on TV, we thought they was just black Americans, and many of them are from Caribbeans and from other places, and they're not. And they get the representatives on TV. And all this conversation about it's divisive and all that other is nonsense. Why is it that the moment that black Americans say we good with the black and brown, we good with, this diaspora conversation, we want to focus on us, and everybody got something to say, and they feel some type of way because of this moment. Now, don't get it twisted. I understand there are people who are detractors and people trying to make it about things that it's not. It's easy for MSNBC or whoever to take some knucklehead who doesn't know what they're talking about, who's talking about getting a check legit. Cut the check is a phrase. Most people who are serious about reparations understand that it's about resources, and the federal government still has to cut a check to support those resources, but it's not a direct check to individuals' hands, right? Even your veteran understands the deficiency and the brokenness of black Americans, how that would not be wise to do so, right? But people who are against it or speak, in a different way, they oversimplify it into cutting a check to an individual when we know that's not what that means. But the statement is still cool because that's what Dr. King said. I'm coming for my check, right? Ironically, many of the black conservatives who are anti-reparations, they completely ignore that Dr. King was coming for that bag, right? Then they killed him. But I guess I'll go into the lighter part of this video of what reparations means to me. What ADOS means to me and why I support the movement, despite not supporting, necessarily caring about the two, I guess they are the leaders of the movement in theory, even though many people have had this concept already before them. Dr. Claude Anderson has been saying for years that black Americans are special people and we are what we are entitled to. So I'll go into why I support ADOS and why it's about identity to me. I remember watching the Grapevine's video, African American versus Africans and Caribbeans and whatnot, a few years ago. And in that video, I can admit that made me feel some type of way. One of the issues that I had was that many of these people were talking about black Americans being cultural appropriators. They were talking about how black folks are going to come over here to Africa and take land and do this and do that. Like, that belongs to people already, which I understand that argument. But one theme that bothered me in that video was that many, especially the Nigerian men, most of them said that we're going to go back home. And we're going to focus on that phrase, going back home, right? But in that video, many of the people said they're here to get the bag. They're here to take advantage of many of the things that black ADOSers, right, fought for and got. And many of these Nigerians and other diaspora get to come in and they get the benefit from that, right? Cool. But they said they're coming here, and then they're gonna go back home. That's what the overall majority of them said, right? And then some women, even one of the chicks on the panel, got offended at the idea of other saying, "Oh, y'all can come back with us," right? And one of the problems I had though is that many of the people in the Grapevine are overly liberal, pro-LGBT, pro-feminist, pro-matriarchy, and whatnot, and they can't bring that back home with them when they go back home. So they can come here and vote and participate in our political space, and they can push all that nonsense and brokenness and make us look like the face of it because they present themselves as black despite being non-ADOS or first generations. But they can't take that shit back home with them, so we're here stuck with this shit for those of us who ain't going nowhere. And that bothered me a lot. That they can push all this shit here in America, but they can't take that back home with them. And not to mention, many of them don't want many black Americans because they think that the negative images of black culture that are promoted in the media is black culture, which is not. It's a subculture. It's not who we are. It's just the ratchetness of our group, like every group has. And they believe that that's who we are, and they don't want that there. So that's why some of them said, "Nah, I don't know about y'all coming back. We can't bring this, matriarchal, egalitarian, role reversal stuff back to Africa because they're, despite being conquered and destroyed, they're still patriarchal as fuck, right?" So many of them have an issue with black Americans going back there too. But moving to a different topic, right? You ever go out watching a movie and you see the situation where it's like an Italian family that might not be connected to the mob or whatever. They just a regular family. And something happens that's dangerous and some stuff happens and they need help, but they're not a made family. They're not connected in that way. So what they do, they get on the phone, they call their cousin that's back in Italy. You notice that too, right? Like 85% of the Italian immigrants who came over here, they all went back home. That phrase again, going back home. But anyways, they call their cousins up, and the cousins get on the plane. They come here. You see the movie happens. They come. They bring some hitters, some killers. They come here. They handle the business. They get back on the plane. They go back home. Same with the Irish. They may not be connected or mob affiliated, but they got some cousins that's back in Ireland. That's gangster. You know what I mean? Former IRA members, whatever. They make that phone call. They get on the plane. Come here. Handle business. They get on the plane. They go back home. Same with the Mexicans. They got some business here, some beef. They call up little Alejandro. They come across that border. They handle their business. They don't have to get on the plane. They just sneak back across the border, and they go back home, right? Now flash forward to the last season of Luke Cage, right? And we saw a situation where it was a beef between Jamaica and ADOS, right? And in that storyline, in that movie, the ADOS was wrong. We took over, we killed Bushmaster's family, and he came back to avenge his family. But what was his goal? His goal was to come back, take over Harlem, run a drug game, get revenge on that ADOS family who did his family dirty. But his goal was to what? Go back home. You get that hint, right? So then you had another situation with Luke Cage, which was before the it was the TV show Message from the King. And I'm feeling the energy because I'm like, oh, so you got a black dude who coming to revenge his sister. So we know what that movie was about. I did do a review about it, but I didn't upload it. But that situation was like this. Black man sister was a little thought box, and she was over here messing with some rich, weird, toe-tapping Republicans at Burke, touching little kids, right? And she felt some type of way because there was kids involved in what was going on. So she snitches and has information. So go to the police. They kill her. So, you know, I love the imagery of it too, because even though the movie wasn't that great, it was something good to watch at home, you know, on Netflix and chill. But the strategic marketing of it, because, you know, Black Panther was coming out and he was the king, right? You know, that guy, right? But he comes over and I'm feeling all the energy, right? I'm loving the imagery. I'm loving what's going on. I'm loving the idea like, oh, a black dude comes and he's saving his sister and he's... No. It almost got me there, right? Because he came from Africa to come to America to find out who killed his sister. He handled his business. And guess what? At the end of the movie, he got on the plane and went back home. Why do I respect the theory of ADOS despite all the controversies and problems around it? Because ADOS to me is about identity. Black Americans, we have no representation at the United Nations. We have no flag in this country. We are a confused people. We have an identity crisis. We get offended when other diaspora don't want to identify as black, not recognizing that they come from predominantly black countries. So their stuff is more tribalistic or nationality is what they choose to identify by. Many of our communities aren't even black. They look like the United Nations, despite us not having any representation there. A little bit of everybody, depending on what part of the country you live in. A bunch of octoroons, all the corner stores are owned by other groups of people. Don't look like a black community. But the one thing that's unique to black Americans, not only is that the reason why we don't have that movie of going back home or that imagery, because this is our home. And that's what ADOS indicates, that we are descendants of American slavery. We built this bitch a few times, rebuilt the White House twice, fought in every civil war. This is our home. Our claim is here. Unique only to the Native Americans. And we're not going to give them too much bail because we know what the 5 civilized tribes did after America ended slavery. They kept that shit. But that's why I support ADOS in theory, because to me it's about identity. It's about lineage. It's about a movement of saying, okay, we've been African American, we've been black, but this statement gives us identity and it gives us a claim to what our ancestors are owed. And that's why I respect ADOS in theory. Despite all the fuckery that's going around it. Despite, you know, the leaders and whatnot, right? ADOS don't got nothing to do with your sexuality. The damn leader of the group, or one of the founders, the face of it, she a lesbian. It ain't got nothing to do with colorism. It ain't got nothing to do with colorism. It ain't got shit to do with colorism. I say that 3rd time, right? You got black Democrats saying it. You got black conservatives talking about original people or native to this country. You got different people with different philosophies that can still understand who we are and what claims we have to this country, despite all the other differences that's going on. The little in-group fighting and little in-group issues, they shouldn't matter. When you got a black conservative that could say, oh, that's who, okay, yeah, that is who we are. With a far leftist like Yvetta and Tone, those things don't matter because it's about identity. It's about who we are as a people. I could respect that on that basis alone. And I think you could build off of that and dive deeper. This is our home, whether we like it or not. And I noticed that some people who previously attacked Yvette Cornell for wrapping herself in that flag in that video, looking like a retard. But I understood the strategicness of that. When you have Democrats pushing out illegal immigrants, little Elian Gonzalez and shit, talking about, I love America, I want to fight for this country, I want to be here. While at the same time, you got a lot of these pro-blackity blacks talking about F America. You even got pro-black half-breeds that don't want to kneel for the flag. That come from privilege and raised by white folks. That politically is not a good look when you have other people who don't have a claim. This is not their home, but they want the benefits of our ancestors and what they fought for. So it made sense for her. And some of the same people who clowned her for wrapping herself in that flag like that are now on the same bandwagon of ADOS or Tangibles 2020. They flipped it a little bit to make it up, to separate it a little bit. But I knew what she was doing when she did that shit. It was strategic. You can't have a bunch of black Americans talking about F this country, F this flag, when you're trying to make a claim to what is owed. You can't have that. You can't have a bunch of people who don't belong here talking about how much they love this country and they want to stay when we have a grievance. Yes, we do. I don't think any black man in America can't have this double consciousness of how to operate in this world. That's just facts. But the reality is, if you want to make this claim, you got to embrace this is your home. Yeah.